Wealthy millionaire tries to escape to a private beach with mistress, but pregnant wife follows. A hush descended upon the lavish gala at the heart of Manhattan, where every chandelier sparkled like a constellation of secrets. Conversations paused mid-sentence as a magnetic presence glided through the crowd, stirring whispers of scandal and forbidden desires. In the corner, a young woman, clutching her handbag in trembling hands, watched her husband with haunted eyes. He, the billionaire tycoon with a reputation for extravagant deals, seemed immune to the tension that crackled around him. She was pregnant with his child, yet darkness brewed beneath his charming exterior. Little did they all know, the stage was set for a showdown that would shatter more than hearts. Emilia Street, Claire stared at the swirling ice in her crystal tumbler, unable to bring it to her lips. The champagne had gone flat in her mouth half an hour ago, and she had since traded it for something stronger. Her eyes, a deep hazel, swept across the opulent living room of the riverside penthouse she called home. Everything glowed with the warm sheen of old money. Hand-stitched rugs imported from Persia, gilded frames containing priceless modern art, vases older than some nations. Yet, tonight, none of this comforted her. She felt on edge, even nauseous. She placed a protective hand on her swollen belly. 5 months along, a flood of emotions coursed through her: excitement for her unborn child, heartbreak for her crumbling marriage, and an unshakable sense of dread. Giovanni Street. Claire, her husband and the father of her baby, had drifted away from her. The distance began as a tiny crack soon after they had wed, but it had widened into a gaping chasm. The man she thought she knew, a devoted entrepreneur, philanthropic donor, and gentle romantic, had transformed before her eyes. Perhaps he was always this way. Maybe his charming facade blinded her to his true nature. All she knew for certain was that her nights were long and sleepless, spent alone in a bed meant for two, while Giovanni made vague excuses about business deals and international phone calls. A key turned in the lock, echoing through the cavernous foyer. Emilia's heart thudded against her rib cage. She set her glass on a nearby end table and rose to meet him. Her reflection flashed in the mirror: tousled dark hair, an elegant but loose-fitting dress to accommodate her belly. She tried to smooth out the anxiety in her features. If she confronted Giovanni with her suspicions too forcefully, he would likely dismiss her, or, worse, become defensive. She'd found a single strand of hair on his suit jacket this morning, a silky blonde strand that could not have come from her. He appeared in the doorway, tall, charismatic, a man who commanded a room with a single glance. Though only in his mid-30s, he'd cultivated a presence that impressed even the sharpest critics on Wall Street. Some said he built his fortune through cunning risk-taking, others claimed it was inherited wealth magnified by shrewd investments. The truth, as Emilia was beginning to suspect, was far more nuanced and possibly far more sinister. Giovanni approached, pressing a perfunctory kiss to her cheek. The faint smell of another woman's perfume lingered on his collar. "How are you feeling?" he asked, voice subdued yet brimming with practiced warmth. "Better now that you're home," Emilia lied, forcing a small smile. Her heart twisted as she realized how easily she could still lie to herself, to him, to everyone around them. "I have some work to finish up in my study," Giovanni said, already loosening his tie and striding deeper into the penthouse. "Important calls with our associates in Dubai." Emilia nodded, biting her lower lip. She had once believed Giovanni's success would grant them freedom, security, and a happily ever after. Money, however, seemed only to isolate them in separate worlds. He disappeared behind the heavy wooden door of his study without so much as a backward glance. Still, she refused to let the night close without at least trying. Her feet carried her to the study. She tapped lightly on the door. A muffled "yes" beckoned her inside. Giovanni sat behind his massive oak desk, laptop open, phone at the ready. "Can it wait?" he asked, impatience lacing his words. Emilia swallowed the lump of hurt that rose in her throat. I just wanted to talk. We haven't had much time together." He raked a hand through his jet black hair. "I'm sorry, darling. I promise. Next weekend, we'll go somewhere nice. Just us." As he spoke, his phone buzzed on the desk. He glanced at it, and Emilia saw a flicker of something in his eyes, guilt or fear. The screen lit up, displaying a short message before Giovanni quickly flipped it face down. A single drop of suspicion crystallized into an undeniable truth in Emilia's mind that was likely from his mistress. She caught her reflection in the mirror above the fireplace and felt herself tremble. What if the illusions she clung to were about to implode? If so, how would she protect herself and her child from the fallout? Chapter 2, Gathering Evidence, 600 words. Weeks slipped by in a haze of half-truths and anxious speculation. Emilia noticed how Giovanni left earlier in the mornings and returned later at night. He was never where he said he would be. The thread of blonde hair was not an isolated incident, smudges of lipstick on the inside of his shirts. Suspicious receipts from lavish restaurants, hotel booking confirmations for suites. She had never stepped foot in. Despite her heartbreak, Emilia was resolute. She would no longer stand idle and let her world be dictated by confusion. Sitting in the penthouse library, she scrolled through page after page of electronic bank statements, credit card bills, and phone logs that arrived in her email each month. The amounts were staggering, though money wasn't the issue. The real problem lay in the clandestine pattern that emerged: an exclusive spa on Fifth Avenue, a suite at the Ritz-Carlton in Bali, luxury boutiques in Paris, all paid for by Giovanni's black Amex. Yet he claimed he only traveled for business to less glamorous locales. She clutched her phone tightly, considering her next steps. Hiring a private investigator felt like a betrayal, but she had to protect her child's future. If Giovanni was funneling wealth away or carrying on with a mistress behind her back, she needed to be aware of the scope. Perhaps if she had proof, she could confront him with undeniable evidence. She searched the internet for private investigators in Manhattan, scanning reviews until her gaze settled on one, Jasmine Park. Discreet, thorough, top-notch credentials, every testimonial praising her ability to unearth uncomfortable truths. Emilia took a moment to quell her trembling nerves, then dialed the number. A cool, professional voice answered. "Miss Park, 1." Her voice wavered. She drew a breath, forced herself to sound collected. "I need help looking into my husband's activities." An appointment was arranged for the next day in a small office, away from prying eyes. Emilia arrived with a portfolio of financial documents, screenshots of text messages she'd glimpsed on Giovanni's phone, and her own recollections of suspicious events. Jasmine listened intently, asking pointed questions without passing judgment. "People in your situation often suspect more than they care to admit," Jasmine said, adjusting her reading glasses. "It's rarely a single piece of evidence that confirms the affair. Instead, it's a mosaic of 1,000 little clues that add up to a truth we can't ignore." Emilia exhaled slowly. She had come here brimming with fear and guilt, but the pragmatic calm of Jasmine's office offered a sort of solace. "I just want to know everything. If he's cheating, where, with whom, and for how long? I'm carrying his baby. I deserve to understand the situation." Jasmine nodded. "I'll start by tailing him. My associates and I will keep a log of who he meets, what times, and where. We'll gather photographic evidence, if possible." Emilia felt her eyes burn with tears. "Thank you," she managed, half-choked. She thought about the heartbreak it would bring to see photographic proof of her husband's indiscretions. Yet she couldn't step away from it now. She needed the truth. Over the following weeks, Jasmine's reports were devastating. Giovanni had been seen entering the penthouse of a woman named Sylvia Whitmore, a rising model known for her golden locks and runway appearances in Milan. He took her to exclusive clubs, dined with her at places he had never taken Emilia, and spent weekends with her in distant locales, ostensibly business trips. The Ritz-Carlton in Bali Charge was, in fact, a getaway for them just months earlier, at the very hotel Emilia once dreamed of visiting with Giovanni. Emilia felt numb as each update solidified the betrayal. In quiet hours, when she managed to catch a few moments alone, she pressed her hand against her belly and whispered assurances to her unborn child, promising that no matter what happened, she would remain strong. One evening, she gathered the courage to confront Giovanni. She waited by the large bay windows of their penthouse, the city lights of Manhattan twinkling behind her. Her phone, containing images Jasmine had sent, felt heavy in her hand. But as soon as Giovanni strode through the door, a triumphant grin on his face, her resolve wavered. He mentioned a significant business deal closing in London, how soon he would be free to spend more time with her. With tears threatening to spill, Emilia said nothing. She couldn't do it yet. The confrontation lingered on the tip of her tongue, but fear and the desire for her child's security kept her silent. She merely nodded and allowed him to pass without challenge. But deep down, she knew the confrontation was inevitable. She couldn't keep living with a man who lied to her so brazenly. The storm was gathering, and it was only a matter of time before it broke, sweeping away all illusions with a torrent of wrath and betrayal. Sylvia Whitmore was 24, dazzling and adored attention the way a desert craves rain. She thrived in exclusive circles, fashion shows in Paris, after parties in Milan, secret soirees in private Manhattan lofts. The entire world seemed to open its doors to her, free designer gowns, invitations to star-studded galas, and a daily flood of social media adoration. Yet for all her fame, she found her greatest thrill in the company of powerful men who could indulge her every whim. Giovanni Street Clare was a new kind of conquest for Sylvia. He wasn't just wealthy, he was dangerously charismatic. From the moment she met him at a black-tie charity event in the Hamptons, she sensed a gravitational pull. He was older, worldly, and exuded the self-assured aura of a man who never took no for an answer. They spent an evening exchanging banter, charged with innuendo. She wore a slinky, emerald green dress that caught every camera's flash. He, in a tailored tux, raised a champagne glass to her across the room. Sparks flew. Before long, they found themselves alone on a moonlit terrace, whispering about their shared thirst for adventure. Sylvia was well aware Giovanni was married. The knowledge didn't deter her. If anything, it spiced the affair with forbidden allure. She enjoyed the secrecy, slipping into back entrances of swank restaurants, donning large sunglasses and hats in public to avoid paparazzi. And Giovanni, eager to keep the affair concealed, spared no expense. He showered her with diamond chokers, first-class flights, and weekend escapes to secluded beaches. Yet all her gifts and glamorous outings came with a cost. Whenever their stolen moments ended, she couldn't help notice how Giovanni's excitement dulled if his phone buzzed with messages from ES. He grew anxious about the calls he had to take, presumably from his pregnant wife. While Sylvia relished her status as the mistress, a part of her envied Emilia's official standing as the legitimate partner. After all, wouldn't it be far more intoxicating to stand at Giovanni's side openly, to be the one who wore the ring? Her discontent simmered, even as she posted curated photos of her life, never once revealing the man behind the scenes. She scrolled through social media one afternoon, lying on her plush sofa in a high-rise suite Giovanni had rented for her. A gold-laced bikini and oversized sunglasses were strewn carelessly across a chair remnants from a photo shoot earlier that day. She came across Emilia's profile, which had limited public posts, One picture stood out: Emilia on a terrace, 5 months pregnant, wearing a soft smile and gazing at the horizon. A pang of jealousy shot through Sylvia's chest. Giovanni rarely displayed genuine affection, but when he spoke about his unborn child, there was a flicker of softness in his eyes, something Sylvia craved. The phone buzzed. Giovanni's name appeared. Her heart thrummed with excitement. She answered on the second ring. "My darling," he purred, "ready to get out of the city for a few days?" Her pulse sped up. "Where are we going?" "I have a private beach in mind. It's quiet, far from prying eyes. The plane leaves in 2 days." She smirked. "What about your wife?" He hesitated, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial hush. "I've told her I'll be traveling for a major deal. She'll think I'm in Singapore. Don't worry about her. This trip is just for us." Sylvia bit her lip. Guilt rarely bothered her, but the unborn child lingered at the corners of her mind. Still, the allure was too strong. She allowed herself to be swept up in Giovanni's gravity. "All right, 2 days it is. I'll be packed." The call ended, and Sylvia closed her eyes, imagining sun-soaked luxury and secret kisses under beach canopies. She took pleasure in the thought of yanking Giovanni from his responsibilities, from his pregnant wife, from any semblance of moral constraint. In those stolen days, he would belong to her and her alone. Yet, as she slipped into a bubble bath that evening, letting the warm water cradle her body, a small voice at the back of her mind warned her not to get too comfortable. Men like Giovanni were fickle, quick to lavish gifts, and quicker still to turn cold when it suited them. Though she masked it well, her envy of Emilia's place in his life grew. If Giovanni's wife didn't exist, perhaps Sylvia could have him all to herself, in all the ways that mattered. For now, she consoled herself by fantasizing about their upcoming escape. She pictured pristine sand, the ocean glimmering under the sun, and a horizon of endless possibilities. She pictured herself draped in a flowing white sarong, Giovanni at her beck and call, the rest of the world locked out. In that haven, her illusions could remain unbroken for a moment longer, at least. Giovanni awakened early, brimming with anticipation. He moved through the penthouse with light footsteps, careful not to disturb Emilia. The flight details were in his encrypted emails, and the reservations for the private beach bungalow in a secluded corner of street Bart's had been arranged weeks in advance. It was a place only the ultra-wealthy frequented, shielded from tourist crowds by exclusive membership and steep fees. He paused in the foyer, glancing at the suite of luggage he had packed. Tropical shirts, tailored shorts, swimsuits, a few formal ensembles for dining. He tried to ignore the knot of guilt twisting in his stomach whenever he thought of Emilia, who was now 5.5 months pregnant and had started to experience bouts of dizziness. He told himself she'd be fine. Money solves everything, he rationalized. He had hired the best obstetricians in the city to watch over her, a personal nurse available 24/7, and even arranged for groceries to be delivered if she couldn't leave the house. The baby wouldn't need for anything. What he couldn't quell was the nagging sense of betrayal, not only to his wife, but to the child he had once claimed he wanted. Yet the lure of Sylvia's carefree allure, her relentless appetite for adventure, and the unspoken promise of stolen passion drew him like a moth to flame. Stepping into the master bedroom, he found Emilia stirring, her eyes opened, heavy with sleep. She glanced at the luggage near the door, and confusion swept over her features. "Where are you going?" she asked, voice soft. A flurry of lies lined up in his mind. "Singapore, remember," he said, feigning exasperation. "Big contract negotiations. If I nail this deal, our future is set." She sat up, brushing hair from her face. "Giovanni, we already have everything we need. Must you travel right now?" He forced a reassuring smile. "This is the last time, I promise." Once this is done, I'll be home more often. You'll see." Her gaze dropped to her swollen abdomen. A flicker of pain crossed her face. "Will you be back in time for the baby shower?" "Yes," he lied smoothly. "I wouldn't miss it." Before she could probe further, he bent down, planted a chaste kiss on her cheek, and murmured a quick goodbye. Slinging a leather carry-on over his shoulder, he left. He dared not look back, for fear that he would see Amelia's teary eyes or sense the heartbreak he was causing. Outside, a sleek black car waited to whisk him to the airport. He sank into the plush leather seat, exhaling in relief as he texted, "Sylvia, on my way. See you soon." Meanwhile, Amelia climbed out of bed with an uneasy feeling gnawing at her. She crossed the room in slow, measured steps, her morning nausea compounded by suspicion. The battered phone in her robe pocket contained messages from the investigator, Jasmine, who had traced Giovanni's recent financial movements to a tropical reservation, definitely not in Singapore. Amelia's heart pounded. She stared at her reflection in the mirror, eyes wide. Did she have the courage to confront him at the airport? Or would she let him slip away again? A sudden resolve stiffened her spine. She dialed Jasmine. "He's leaving now. I need to know where he's really going." Within minutes, Jasmine called back. "He's booked on a private flight to Street Barts. I have access to the manifest. The passenger list includes Miss Whitmore." The words felt like a hammer to Amelia's chest. So, it was true he was abandoning her and their unborn child for a romantic tryst. Her mind raced. She would not be passive, left behind in tears while her husband frolicked on a sun-drenched beach. Gathering her courage, she decided to take action. Though her hands trembled, she rapidly packed a few essentials in a small suitcase. She couldn't match Giovanni's speed or resources, but she had enough wealth of her own inheritance from her grandfather to book a flight on short notice. She tapped furiously at her phone, trying to find any available seat on a charter to Street Barts. Jasmine, sensing her plan, offered assistance. "I can help. I have contacts." "But are you sure you want to do this? It could be risky." Amelia felt her unborn child kick against her rib, as if urging her to stand firm. "I have to. I need to see this with my own eyes." An hour later, she was in a hired car heading to a smaller airport that handled exclusive charters. Anxiety clenched at her every nerve, but a strange sense of empowerment coursed through her too. Giovanni thought he could keep her locked away, ignorant and docile. He would soon learn otherwise. As the car pulled up to the private terminal, Amelia took a fortifying breath. She glanced at her phone's clock. Giovanni's flight was set to depart in 15 minutes. Hers would leave an hour later, a short delay that might cost her the chance to confront him on the tarmac. Even so, she would arrive in Street Barts soon after him. One way or another, she planned to make sure he couldn't hide. A reckoning was near. The scorching sun beat down on the tarmac in street. Barts as Giovanni stepped off the private jet. He inhaled the warm, salty air, feeling the tropical humidity cling to his skin. Exotic palm trees swayed gently at the edge of the runway, and the turquoise sea glistened in the distance. Sylvia descended behind him, slipping on oversized sunglasses, her blonde hair catching the sun's rays like spun gold. A luxury SUV awaited, and they climbed in. The driver, hired through Giovanni's personal assistant, discreetly whisked them away from the main town, along winding roads fringed with lush greenery. Eventually, they reached a gated estate hugging a pristine beach. High walls and thick foliage offered complete privacy. The estate's caretaker bowed in greeting, handing over keys to the main bungalow, a structure that combined modern elegance with rustic island charm. Tall, open windows let in sea breezes, and a spacious veranda opened directly onto the white sand beach. Sylvia gazed around, eyes lit with delight. "This is paradise," she breathed. Giovanni's lips curved into a satisfied smile. I chose it so we could be alone, away from prying eyes. Luggage was brought inside, and soon they found themselves standing on the veranda, sipping freshly pressed tropical juices as the caretaker explained the property's amenities. There was an infinity pool that overlooked the sea, a private beach cove shielded by rocky outcroppings, a butler service on standby. Anything they wanted at any hour was theirs. Despite the enchantment of the locale, Giovanni felt a prickle of unease. He wondered if Emilia suspected anything, or if she believed his fabricated story about Singapore. He shoved the thought aside. He had to. This weekend was supposed to be a time of escape, an extended dream. In the bungalow's master suite, white curtains fluttered, and silky sheets adorned an oversized bed. Sylvia sprawled across it, beckoning Giovanni with a mischievous smile. He joined her, letting the sea breeze and her warm embrace lull him into temporary forgetfulness. The hours melted away in a haze of passion, champagne, and whispered promises. For a fleeting moment, he convinced himself that this was the life he deserved, thrilling, unbound by consequences. Across the ocean, Emilia's plane touched down at the small airport in Street Barts. Tired from the journey and her pregnancy aches, she summoned her remaining energy. Jasmine had arranged a local driver to meet her. The tropical sun immediately assaulted her senses. She wasn't dressed for the heat, wearing a simple black jersey dress that clung to her burgeoning belly. The driver, a sun-browned islander with a friendly smile, loaded her small suitcase into a modest car. "Welcome to Street Barts," he said in a thick accent. "Where do you need to go?" Emilia swallowed hard. She showed him the address Jasmine had texted. His eyebrows rose, recognizing the property name as an ultra-exclusive estate for the super-rich. "I can take you there, madame," he said politely, though curiosity glimmered in his eyes. As they wound along coastal roads, Emilia's heart drummed in her chest. She gazed out the window at the dazzling ocean views, once the sort of paradise she and Giovanni daydreamed about visiting as newlyweds. Now, this paradise was the stage for a potential confrontation that could destroy any remaining vestige of her marriage. She steeled herself. If she had come this far, she would see it through. Soon they arrived at a high-walled entrance. A guard at the gatehouse stopped them, inquiring about their purpose. Emilia flashed a calm smile, though her pulse raced. "I'm here to see my husband, Giovanni Street Clare," she stated, voice tremulous with suppressed emotion. Surprise flickered across the guard's face. He inspected a clipboard. "Mr. Street, Claire is expecting no guests," he said carefully. Emilia's facade nearly cracked. "He might not be expecting me, but I'm certain he'll want to see me," she said, voice edged with steel. She was done being meek. For a moment, the guard seemed torn. Eventually, he lifted his walkie-talkie, spoke in hushed tones, and then allowed the car to proceed up the long driveway. Tension coiled within Emilia, tight as a drawn bow. She had imagined confronting Giovanni in Manhattan, maybe in a controlled environment. But fate had decreed it happen here, in this sun-drenched world of opulent seclusion. The car stopped in front of a villa perched near the beach. Wind ruffled the palm fronds overhead. Emilia noticed another car parked nearby, the same model Giovanni favored, her stomach twisted in knots. She stepped out, trembling. She imagined Giovanni inside, laughing with his mistress, oblivious to her presence. Nerves flared, but she forced her feet to move up the steps. She would make him face her. She would reveal how far his betrayal had pushed her. And, in the back of her mind, she clung to a microscopic hope. Maybe there was an explanation, some grand misunderstanding that would save their relationship. But with every passing second, that hope withered like a flower, scorched in the tropical sun. She was here to unveil the truth, no matter how painful. The caretaker greeted her at the door, eyes wide in confusion. Emilia announced her name, insisting that she needed to see Giovanni. The caretaker's face went pale, caught between conflicting loyalties. Nevertheless, Emilia pushed past him, heart hammering as she stepped into the foyer. She could hear faint laughter from the living area and the sweet aroma of fresh fruit and champagne drifting through the open space. Giovanni was inside this paradise, and now, so was she. As she braced herself for what she might witness, one thought blazed in her mind. Once this confrontation began, there was no turning back. Emilia's footsteps echoed on the tiled floors as she made her way through the breezy corridors of the luxury villa. Adrenaline pulsed through her, every sense on high alert. Rounding a corner, she caught her first glimpse of Giovanni and Silvia in a sun-drenched living area that opened onto the beach. They sat on a plush white sofa, champagne glasses in hand, leaning in close, lost in each other's eyes. Emilia swallowed the lump in her throat. Time seemed to slow. The swirl of the ceiling fans, the hushed crash of waves, the whisper of the balmy wind, everything faded into a muffled hush. Giovanni looked up, his gaze colliding with Emilia's. His expression morphed from lazy contentment to utter shock. The champagne glass slipped from his fingers, tumbling onto the floor where it shattered, sending droplets of golden liquid and shards of glass across the tiles. Silvia stiffened, turning her head. Recognition dawned, and with it, a flush of embarrassment. She hastily set her glass aside, edges of her composure fraying. "Emilia," Giovanni choked out, scrambling to his feet. "How what?" Emilia stood tall, though her heart was pounding in her ears. Her gaze flicked between the two, taking in the scene she'd dreaded. "Surprised to see me, husband?" Her voice wavered on the word husband. He moved toward her, arms raised, as if to calm her. "Let me explain," he began, panic etched in every syllable. The baby kicked, responding to the overwhelming rush of emotion. Emilia placed a protective hand on her belly. She fought tears, refusing to appear weak. "I don't think there's much to explain," she said. "I've seen the photos. I've been tracking your lies for months." Silvia remained silent, eyes darting toward the door, as if hoping to escape. But something in her expression also held defiance, like she was thinking, "If you're such a good wife, why did he run to me?" Giovanni inhaled raggedly, stepping closer to Emilia, but she recoiled, forcing him to halt. Emilia, I didn't intend for you to find out like this," he said, voice brittle. "I was going to end it, I promise. It was just a fling, a mistake that's been going on for how long?" Emilia shot back, fury and heartbreak warring inside her. "Did you plan this trip from the start, while you left me alone at home to deal with our child on my own?" Silvia cleared her throat. "He told me you were fine with him traveling for business. He never mentioned you'd be worried or upset." The statement was laced with feigned innocence, though the tremor in her voice hinted at guilt. Emilia's piercing glare pinned Silvia in place. "You knew he was married. You knew I was pregnant. Did you ever consider the fallout? Or were you too busy enjoying the gifts and the glamorous getaways?" Silvia's cheeks flamed, but she remained silent, eyes averted. Giovanni turned, pressing his palms together as though in prayer. "I was foolish, Emilia. Please, just come inside and let me explain everything properly. Don't make a scene." She let out a strangled laugh. "A scene? I flew halfway around the world to track my unfaithful husband who lied about going to Singapore. I think I'm entitled to a scene." Before Giovanni could respond, Emilia took another step back, her breath ragged. She felt a wave of dizziness wash over her. Too much stress, too much heat. She reached out to steady herself against a nearby table. Immediately, concern flooded Giovanni's face. "Are you all right? You look pale." He tried to support her, but she shook him off. "Don't touch me," she hissed. I'm here for answers, but more than that, I'm here to claim my dignity. You've humiliated me for the last time." A charged silence fell. Sylvia rose from the sofa, smoothing her hair as though preparing to excuse herself. But the caretaker, alerted by the commotion, hovered by the doorway, unsure whether to intervene. Giovanni raked his hands through his hair, desperation seeping into his voice. "Emilia, please. We can work this out. I never wanted to leave you. I just got carried away." Emilia's eyes brimmed with tears she refused to let fall. "Carried away? You're about to be a father. We promised to build a life together, but you'd rather play out some fantasy on a private beach. Where does that leave me? Where does that leave our child?" He opened his mouth, but no words came. In that moment, the truth crashed down on them all. There was no easy explanation, no well-crafted lie to salvage the trust he had shattered. The reality was as clear as the shards of broken glass on the floor. Emilia drew a shaky breath. "You want me to be quiet, to step aside, so you can continue living this double life. But I refuse to be silent anymore. It ends now, Giovanni." Sylvia lifted her chin, perhaps expecting Emilia to lash out physically, but Emilia only fixed her with a resolute stare. "You can have him if you want," she said bitterly, "but know that I won't be the one picking up the pieces when he decides to chase his next thrill." Sylvia's bravado wavered, and she took a step back. Giovanni tried to protest. "Don't say that." But Emilia cut him off with a raised hand. "Save your breath," she said. "I've already heard enough lies. This marriage is over, Giovanni, and I'm taking our child far away from all of this." Her voice wavered on the last sentence, tears threatening to overtake her. Summoning what remained of her strength, she whirled and strode toward the door. The caretaker stepped aside, eyes downcast. Giovanni stood there, stunned, while Sylvia hovered in awkward silence. Outside, the tropical sun seemed cruelly bright. Emilia squinted, tears cascading down her cheeks as soon as she was out of sight. Her driver waited where she had left him, concern etched on his face. Emilia climbed into the car and shut the door, her entire body trembling. She'd done it, she had confronted Giovanni, had seen the ugly truth up close. Now she felt both liberated and utterly broken. The car rolled down the driveway, away from the illusions that had once been her future. And behind her, in the pristine villa, Giovanni and Sylvia stood in the wreckage of their exposed affair, uncertain of what would follow in the wake of this explosive revelation. 2 days passed under a cloud of tension. Emilia remained in Street Barts, but she booked a modest hotel near the local marina instead of returning immediately to Manhattan. She needed time to process everything away from the penthouse that had once been her sanctuary. She spent her days in introspection, pacing the small balcony that overlooked fishing boats bobbing in azure waters. Thoughts and emotions warred inside her, leaving little room for rest. Across the island, Giovanni was in turmoil. After the explosive confrontation, Sylvia demanded he explain himself. Was he truly ending his marriage, or was this a fleeting dalliance that had gone too far? Giovanni, reeling from guilt and shame, struggled to give her a straight answer. He vacillated between regret and the thrill of the affair, caught in the crossfire of his own desires. Sylvia, for her part, grew weary of playing second fiddle. She had never intended to be a stepping stone. If she couldn't have the spotlight, maybe she had made a mistake in entangling herself with him. Meanwhile, Emilia's phone buzzed constantly with messages from Giovanni. Lengthy apologies, desperate pleas, even angry outbursts that accused her of ruining his life by showing up unannounced. She read them all with a hollow heart. It was the same cycle of manipulation she had endured for months. He was never at fault, always the victim of circumstance. Her child's future loomed large in her mind. How could she raise a baby with a man incapable of loyalty? One evening, As the sun dipped low over the ocean, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Amelia sat on her balcony, sipping from a glass of water. She felt her baby move, a reminder that life went on within her, despite the emotional devastation. Then came a knock at her door. Her heart lurched. Was it Giovanni? She didn't want another confrontation, but upon checking the peephole, she saw a woman she recognized, Jasmine Park, the private investigator. Amelia opened the door, surprise evident. Why are you here?" Jasmine lifted a small folder. "I came as soon as I found something you should see." It's bigger than just an affair. A pulse of unease spread through Amelia. She invited Jasmine in, and they sat at a small table where the investigator spread out various documents. "I've been digging deeper into Giovanni's finances," Jasmine began. At first, it seemed like a standard affair scenario: hidden expenses, undisclosed trips. But it goes beyond that. Giovanni's been transferring large sums into offshore accounts. The transactions are suspicious, possibly illegal. They coincide with the times he spent with Sylvia or on lavish personal expenditures. Amelia's eyes widened. "Illegal? You mean like money laundering?" "Potentially," Jasmine said, nodding gravely. "Or it could be tied to some shady business dealings. It's no secret that some of Giovanni's ventures are run with questionable partners." Amelia's stomach churned. Betrayal was one thing, but criminal activity threatened far greater repercussions. If Giovanni was indicted, or if he lost his fortune due to legal troubles, their child's security would vanish overnight. "What do I do?" she whispered, voice quivering. Jasmine's gaze softened. "I don't mean to alarm you, but you needed to know. As your investigator, I advise you to protect yourself and your assets. If Giovanni's about to be exposed, you don't want to be caught in the crossfire." Amelia pressed a hand to her temple, overwhelmed. She had flown here to confront personal betrayal, only to discover that she might be entangled in a looming legal storm. "I thank you. I appreciate you telling me." Jasmine hesitated, then added, "Also, I have intel that the authorities may start looking into Giovanni's activities. If you're divorcing him, get your legal team ready. Don't let him drag you down with him." Amelia stared at the folder of documents, her mind reeling. Suddenly, a wave of determination rose in her. "He might have shattered my trust, but he won't destroy me or my child. I'll do whatever it takes to protect myself." Jasmine handed her a business card. "I know a good lawyer who specializes in high-stakes divorces and asset protection. Let me know if you need a connection." Amelia nodded, tears of both relief and despair welling up. She thanked Jasmine and escorted her out. The night air hit her like a shock of reality. She was truly standing on the brink of the unknown marriage in tatters, baby on the way, her husband potentially facing legal scrutiny for shady dealings. The revelation sent her mind spinning. She took a long moment to compose herself, deciding she wouldn't collapse under this weight. Maybe this was the twist of fate she needed, the impetus to break away completely, to forge a life without Giovanni's manipulations. Tucking the folder under her arm, she stepped back inside, switched on a small lamp, and began making notes for her next moves. If karma was coming for Giovanni, she realized with a cold clarity, it was also providing her a chance to escape. Tropical rain drummed against the villa's roof that night, as Sylvia found herself alone in the bedroom she and Giovanni had shared. He was out, presumably dealing with the aftermath of Emilia's sudden arrival. The caretaker had mentioned Giovanni driving off in a stormy mood, possibly trying to salvage business deals or nurse his wounded pride at a secluded bar. Sylvia curled up on the bed, hugging a pillow as guilt gnawed at her. She had never wanted to be a homewrecker. Sure, she enjoyed the glamour, the gifts, and the thrill of the chase, but she was not heartless. She remembered the stricken look on Amelia's face, how heartbreak etched itself into every feature. The memory haunted Sylvia. She checked her phone. Social media feeds brimmed with usual vanity friends posting selfies, fashion models flaunting designer outfits, fellow influencers raving about exclusive vacations. Suddenly, it all felt hollow. She scrolled to Amelia's profile, what little she could see of it. Her recent post was from weeks ago, a simple shot of a sonogram with the caption, "Halfway there. Can't wait to meet you, my little miracle." The joy in those words cut Sylvia to the core. How had she become entangled in something so cruel? Sighing, Sylvia tossed her phone aside. The more she thought about it, the more she realized she had been blinded by Giovanni's magnetism. He had painted his marriage as a loveless arrangement, neglecting to mention that Amelia was pregnant or that, behind the scenes, he might actually care. Over time, cracks had formed in his stories. She'd witnessed him panic whenever Amelia called, noticed the heartbreak in his eyes when he admitted there was a baby on the way. But by then, she was in too deep. Her pride demanded she hold on to the relationship, even if it was built on deceit. Now, with Amelia having confronted them both, the veil was torn away. Giovanni was a deeply flawed man who might love no one more than himself. And Sylvia, silently, she asked herself if it was too late to walk away. A knock at the bedroom door startled her. Giovanni entered, soaked from the rain, hair plastered to his forehead. His eyes glinted with a tumult of emotions, anger, frustration, and a flicker of fear. He flung his wet jacket onto a chair, pacing the room like a caged tiger. "Where have you been?" Sylvia ventured softly. "Out," he muttered, tugging off his tie. "Trying to contain the damage, if you must know." Sylvia swallowed, uncertain of her position in his life. "And? Any luck?" He paused, pinning her with a cold stare. "What do you think?" "My wife is threatening to divorce me. She's talking about leaving with the baby. Investors are getting skittish because of rumors about my private life. And I've got more problems brewing, ones you don't need to worry about." Sylvia bristled. "Don't talk to me like that. We're in this together, remember?" His laugh held no warmth. "Are we?" This was supposed to be fun. Now it's turning into a nightmare. A pang of hurt rippled through Sylvia. "You told me you cared about me, that we had a future." He snorted, raking a hand through his damp hair. "I said a lot of things, Sylvia. Reality's different. I have responsibilities, a reputation. This scandal could ruin me if I don't handle it carefully." Tears threatened to spill down Sylvia's cheeks, but she blinked them back. "Then handle it. But don't expect me to stand by if I'm just some disposable accessory." Giovanni's face contorted. "You don't understand. My entire empire is on shaky ground now. The last thing I need is more drama." Sylvia inhaled sharply, anger wrestling with guilt. "So that's all? This was a fling until it got too complicated?" He sighed, wearily sitting on the edge of the bed. "That's not what I said. I'm sorry, all right? I'm just under a lot of pressure." For a moment, neither spoke, letting the rain fill the silence. Then Sylvia scooted closer, placing a tentative hand on his shoulder. "I never intended to cause this much damage. If I had known your wife was pregnant, if I had known you still had feelings for her." She trailed off, her voice cracking. Giovanni let out a ragged breath, meeting her gaze. "I don't know what I feel anymore. Everything's spiraling out of control." In that moment, Sylvia recognized the panic in his eyes. He was lost, uncertain, and possibly scared of losing everything he'd built. A twinge of compassion stirred within her, but it clashed with her own self-preservation. Part of her wanted to walk away and salvage what remained of her dignity. Another part was drawn to his vulnerability, the same magnetism that had lured her in from the start. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, but she ignored it, focused on the man before her. "Maybe it's best if we both step back. Let this storm pass," she said, voice trembling. "I don't want to be the reason your life falls apart." Giovanni shook his head, reaching for her hand. "Don't go. I need someone on my side." Sylvia swallowed the lump in her throat. She had always craved being wanted, needed, but was this genuine need or just desperation? "I'm here," she said, though uncertainty laced her words. The rain intensified, thunder rumbling in the distance. They sat together in fraught silence, each grappling with the consequences of their actions. Both realized that paradise had turned into a trap of secrets and lies. The illusions that once made the affair exhilarating had dissolved under the harsh light of betrayal. Now only regret and a glimmer of empathy remained, forging a tenuous bond that might not withstand the coming storms. Back at her modest hotel by the marina, Emilia received a call from an unknown number. Tension shot through her, but she answered anyway. "This is Detective Hawkins with the Financial Crimes Division," the voice said. "May I speak with Miss S. Emilia Streetclair?" Emilia's stomach lurched. "Speaking. I'd like to ask a few questions about your husband, Giovanni Streetclair, related to certain business transactions. We understand you're traveling, but it's imperative we schedule a meeting as soon as possible." She swallowed. This was exactly the storm Jasmine had warned her about. Trying to steady her voice, she replied, "I'll be returning to Manhattan in a few days." "I can arrange something then," the detective agreed, leaving a contact number before hanging up. Emilia closed her eyes, exhaling shakily. The walls were closing in on Giovanni. What would that mean for her unborn child? The next morning, with the tropical sun shining bright, Emilia made her choice. She set up a video call with her lawyer, an unflappable woman named Victoria Hall, recommended by Jasmine. Victoria outlined the steps to file for divorce, freeze joint accounts to protect Emilia's share of the finances, and negotiate custody arrangements. Though the legal labyrinth ahead was daunting, Emilia felt a surge of empowerment. She deserved a life free from Giovanni's deceit. Shortly after the call, she packed her suitcase, determined to leave Street Barts. But first, she made a stop at the secluded estate. She knew Giovanni would be furious that she'd filed for divorce, but she also knew it had to be done. The caretaker let her in again, this time with less hesitation. He could sense the unstoppable momentum of her decision. She found Giovanni in the living area, typing furiously on his laptop. Sylvia lingered nearby, arms folded. The atmosphere crackled with tension. Giovanni glanced up, and his face drained of color at the sight of Emilia, who clutched a sheaf of legal papers. "Emilia," he began, standing. "Why are you here?" Her voice was level, though her heart hammered. "To give you these." She extended the divorce petition, her wedding ring balanced atop the stack. "I'm done, Giovanni. I'm leaving." He froze, eyes darkening with panic. "You can't be serious." "We can still fix this." Emilia's voice trembled, but resolve hardened her tone. "No, we can't. This wasn't a single mistake. It was a pattern of lies. I've spoken to lawyers. The authorities are also investigating your financial dealings. This is bigger than just us now." Sylvia remained silent, pale. She looked away, as if anticipating another explosive confrontation. Giovanni reached for Emilia's hand, but she stepped back. "Emilia, think of our child," he pleaded. She let out a trembling breath. "I am. That's why I refuse to bring them into a life of chaos and infidelity." Giovanni glanced at Sylvia, who averted her gaze. Realizing he could no longer rely on her for support, he took a different tack, voice growing cold. "You think you can leave me and take everything? The penthouse, the assets, everything is mine." Emilia held his gaze, unwavering. "We'll let the courts decide what's fair, but you should know I have proof of your affair and evidence of suspicious financial transfers. If you want a public scandal, keep pushing. Otherwise, sign the papers and let me go." For a moment, fury flickered across Giovanni's face, but it was swiftly replaced by dread. He was cornered, and he knew it. "I can't believe you'd do this," he growled, voice taut with desperation. Emilia blinked back tears, a painful swirl of memories filling her mind, her wedding day. The first time he kissed her, the joy they once shared. But those memories belonged to a man who didn't exist anymore. Summoning the last vestiges of strength, she pivoted and walked out. As she reached the doorstep, Giovanni's voice echoed behind her, "Don't you walk away from me!" But she kept going, refusing to look back. A sense of finality enveloped her as she stepped into the blazing island sun. Unknown to either of them, a second black car waited beyond the estate gates. Detective Hawkins had arrived on the island to conduct interviews. Giovanni's unraveling was imminent, and karma, it seemed, was poised to strike harder than he could ever imagine. A month later, the tabloids exploded with headlines: "Billionaire Street," "Claire under investigation," "Scandal in high society," and "Pregnant heiress files for divorce," amid massive financial fraud. Images of Giovanni with a sullen expression, hounded by reporters outside a Manhattan courthouse, graced every front page. All the while, Emilia kept a low profile, relying on her legal team to protect her. The trial commenced swiftly. Prosecutors unveiled a web of offshore accounts, shell companies, and fraudulent deals orchestrated by Giovanni and a cabal of shadowy investors. Money had been funneled illegally, taxes evaded, bribes paid. Giovanni appeared in court wearing the same designer suits he once sported with confidence, but now his posture slumped. He was out on bail, but the evidence weighed heavily against him. Sylvia, too, took the stand, her testimony painting a damning picture. She recounted lavish gifts paid for by dubious transactions, exotic trips funded by money that seemed limitless until the authorities caught wind. Though she faced public scorn as the mistress, she chose to cooperate with prosecutors in exchange for leniency, wanting to salvage her future. The cameras captured her exit from the courthouse, eyes downcast, as bystanders jeered. Meanwhile, Emilia's pregnancy had advanced to the 3rd trimester. She found refuge in her family's estate outside the city, far from the media circus. Victoria, her lawyer, handled every legal intricacy with unwavering poise. They worked to ensure that Emilia's share of the marital assets remained protected from seizure, emphasizing her innocence in Giovanni's schemes. The baby's well-being guided every decision Emilia made. She was determined to shield her child from the chaos unleashed by their father. Early one morning, as Emilia sat in a sunlit drawing room, cradling her growing belly, Victoria arrived with an update. "He's agreed to the divorce settlement," Victoria announced gently. "It's a tough deal for him, but with the criminal charges, he has no leverage to contest." Emilia felt an overwhelming relief settle over her. "So, that's it?" Victoria nodded. "Essentially, yes. He's facing potential prison time. The court will finalize your divorce soon, and you'll retain enough assets to secure your child's future. Giovanni will be restricted from contact unless you choose otherwise." A swirl of conflicting emotions flooded Emilia: relief, sadness, and a sense of liberation. She hadn't expected to feel pity for him, but part of her did. Once, she loved him deeply. Now, he was a broken man whose greed and deceit had laid waste to everything he built. In the weeks that followed, the courts pronounced Giovanni guilty on multiple counts of financial fraud and conspiracy. Sentence day arrived, a spectacle of flashing cameras and scrawling headlines. Giovanni, once the darling of high society, was led away in handcuffs. He spared only a distant, haunted glance toward Emilia, who observed from a quiet corner in the back. Their eyes met for the briefest moment, memories flickering in the charged air. Emilia's gaze was resolute. She did not waver. No words passed between them, just the silent acknowledgement that this was the end. The gavel fell, sealing his fate with finality. 2 months later, as autumn leaves turned golden, Emilia gave birth to a healthy baby boy. She named him Gabriel, a symbol of hope after the storm. Holding her son in her arms for the first time, she wept tears of joy and promise. The past year had been a crucible of betrayal and heartbreak, but also a forging ground for her inner strength. Through it all, Amelia discovered her capacity to survive and protect her child from the wreckage of a father's misdeeds. In the quiet hospital room, as she cradled Gabriel against her chest, she felt a profound sense of gratitude. She was free, her baby safe, their future wide open to possibility. It was, in many ways, a new beginning born from the ashes of a marriage consumed by deceit, now replaced by unwavering love for the little life she held so gently. Every betrayal carries its price, and Giovanni Street Clare paid dearly for his. In his desperate pursuit of pleasure and power, he lost the very foundations he once took for granted: his wife, his fortune, and even his freedom. Sylvia, blinded by ambition, discovered the hollow truth behind her glittering lifestyle. And Amelia, though forced to endure heartbreak and betrayal, emerged stronger than ever, fueled by her devotion to the innocent child who became her guiding light. In the end, justice arrived, not with a whisper, but a thunderous crash, scattering the illusions that once dazzled them all. Yet from these shattered pieces, a new life arose. Amelia and her son Gabriel found hope beyond the turmoil, forging a path that proved no storm could quench a mother's resolve. If you found this story compelling, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Your support helps bring more dramas and life lessons to light. Thank you.